so that people could have something while they were waiting for me to get into the studio and put it out. And then I also have a web series that I've got a couple seasons of, and I'm going to gradually start creating videos for again, where it's called Life and Shit.
Oh, wow.
And it began as an answer to a lot of the constant questions that I got about being gender fluid and being non-binary. And so it started out as a way for me to talk about the things that I experience based on, like the first season, the first episode was like, because I get people asking me all the time when they find out, they're like, oh, so what bathroom do you use? Or I get people asking, like, what is it, like when you say, like, gender fluid, like, what does that even mean? Or another one that I've gotten, like other questions. And then it started out as, like, being very, very personal to me about things like, oh, well, are you going to have any kind of, like, you're going to do any, like, hormone or, like, surgery-related thing? So, like, I get all of these questions, and as opposed to having to answer this question from 27 people one by one, I created a video so that I could just, bink, and that was my prepackaged thing. And then it sort of took off into this, like, 2 seasons. So right now I think I have about 18 episodes. And I'm doing, like, 9 episodes per season. I've let it go for a while just because I didn't really have any material that I felt I could sort of put out. But I'm compiling a list of videos that I want to make for a 3rd season.
Oh, nice.
And then, like, maybe just do, like, a monthly thing after that, as opposed to necessarily trying to think about grouping it into, like, a 9-episode block. And so it started as being super personal with that, and then kind of gradually developed into things like, like my, like, discussions of, like, privilege, or discussions of, what it even means sometimes to be a busker, So it started as being this very specific answer to, like, gender-related questions and things of that nature, and developed into a much broader look at, like, the life of a creative person and, like, individual like that, and just, like, other general, because a lot of people be like, well, this choice, this lifestyle, and so, like, I put up a video about that, being like, look, it's not a choice or a lifestyle. It's just who I am. So those are kind of the big things is that kind of go on my YouTube channel, is like Life and Shit, and then music related things.
I've always had trouble with sexual stereotyping, and it's just difficult because I'm a man. I'm definitely a man, but but in many ways I have very feminine qualities.
Sure.
I'm a listener. I'm a cuddler. I'm all these things that. I always felt much more at home with girls than with men because I was in many ways more like them.
Yeah, which is interesting because for me, exact opposite. Growing up, I was always one of the boys. Always. Like, and it wasn't that I didn't like girls. It wasn't that I was like, oh my God, girls are stupid. I don't want to be a girl. It had nothing to do with that. And it had everything to do with the fact that I just felt more like a boy. Like, I was like, if I like looking for things like representation, like things that resonate with you, I'd look on, TV screen, or I'd read books, or I'd play games or whatever, and I'd be like, that one.
Yeah.
And that's a boy, and I feel way more connection. And that's a girl, and I see similarities, but I'm like, but at the end of the day, like, that's the thing that I just inherently feel more like,
You know the Dar Williams song, When I Was a Boy? That might be a good cover for you.
Oh, it might be.
It's a cool song.
I haven't heard it in a while, but now that you brought it up to me, I should,
But it's definitely all about sexual stereotyping.
Yeah.
But, and there's a turnaround at the end where the guy sings When I Was a Girl.
Sure.
And it's just a brilliant song.
Yeah.
Brilliant song.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to this, like, for me, like, everyone has masculine and feminine aspects and all of these different things. Like, we have all this, and, like, we talk about gender roles, we talk about this, we talk about that, and everyone's got different sort of surface aspects or facets, I should say. Right. And then there's something deeper that kind of lies with that. And it's like for me, I have feminine traits. Of course I do. Yeah. I have masculine traits. Of course I do. Because there really isn't actually any such thing as a feminine or a masculine trait. So it's just like, they're just human traits. And right now what we've done is we've put them into these boxes and been like, oh, you like to wear pants? Well, that makes you a boy. You like to wear this? Well, that makes you a girl. But in reality, it has nothing to do with any of that. Like, clothing is clothing. You have bodies, wear what you want, you know? It's
Some
just...
people get very afraid, though.
Oh, they do.
Very
Oh, they
afraid.
do. They get very afraid, and a lot of times, at least in my experience, what that fear then externally translates to is anger. You know, because they're afraid and they're feeling insecure. So what they, and obviously it's not all across the board, but a lot of the people that I have interacted with who push back against, you know, like just whatever it is, whether it's me saying that I'm gender fluid or like asking for people to use they them pronouns, like a lot of the times when people are pushing back against that and they're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, this doesn't exist, blah, blah, blah. It's because they just don't understand it and they're a little bit like insecure about it. And then the only way that they know how to voice that insecurity is by trying to seem stronger than they actually are. And so what that turns into is this like aggression or anger.
I think very often people have unresolved issues about their own sexuality.
Oh, totally.
That they're upset about.
Yes,
You know,
100%.
They wish they were exactly one thing, but
Oh, yeah.
we're all everything.
Oh yeah.
you know?
Well, and it's funny to me, not to get like too personal, but it's absolutely hysterical to me when very straight cisgender men are clearly attracted to me and are terrified by that. It's like just like I had someone that I worked with, and I worked with him before I came out. And he was very clearly attracted to me. And, like, we'd flirt back and forth, you know, like, casual banter, and he was a nice guy, whatever. I came out, and he just backpedaled. And it was so clear. I was like, dude, this doesn't make you gay.
Right.
And even if it did, that's not a problem.
Right.
Like,
you are
but,
who you are.
you know, exactly. And so it's just like,
My goddaughter
but it
came
cracks
out
me
to
up.
me
It's
when
so
she was
funny.
like 15 or 16 years old, and she's flipped back and forth a couple times.
Sure.
She's going to be 30 in July. But I always said to him, I don't care. You don't have to wear a label. Just love who you love. If they
Yeah.
treat you with respect and courtesy and affection, and they make you happy, then I'm happy that you're in love with them.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, if you find a label that fits for you and you
Yeah.
want to use it, run with it. Go.
Yeah.
If you don't, then don't.
yeah, but just find your place and your way.
Yep.
In terms of the streaming, are there aspects of it that you really dislike?
Yes and no. I think probably the only thing that I'm not a gigantic fan of with like broadcasting or live streaming is and again, it's just kind of the nature of the technology. It's sometimes like the delay.
Oh,
We're like
latency.
the latency, yeah, and especially when I was first starting,
Oh,
I'd be like, "Hey, so how's everybody doing?
crickets.
You doing good? Is there anyone here? Is it, you know?" So I think it was more so. It was less of like a, I don't like this, and it was more of just because again, it's completely different than like talking to somebody
Yeah.
on the phone or even talking to somebody on like a Skype call or something like that, where you're or talking to someone in person, where you get that immediate response. There is the overlap. There is like the conversational back and forth. And I think it wasn't so much that I didn't like it, it's just learning how to navigate. All right, I'm going to ask this question, and there's going to be like 7 seconds that I have to sort of chill because people are answering, but I just don't see it yet.
Well, sometimes I'll watch your stream on 2 or 3 devices. And,
Interesting.
Yeah, and I have latency differences sometimes of up to 40 seconds.
Wow. Yeah, no, I've noticed that too sometimes.
It's crazy,
Huh.
It's really wild, but it's. I think it was tough for me. I first started streaming because I want to create a space where I can hand off to performers like you and Matt and other people, and kind of like a Ed Sullivan thing or something where I go, hey,
cool.
check out this person.
Yeah, right?
But I need 2 or 3 dozen really strong performers.
Yeah.
To do it, to make it interesting. I've not generated this kind of a cadre yet. And I would like to establish a relationship with them so they can hand off to each other.
Sure.
So my friends out east can pass to somebody in Chicago, and then 2 hours later they can pass to you.
Right. I realized something I don't like, and it's just the nature of the internet. So it's just kind of, you know, like it's part of the beast. Is the safety that you have to insult someone in real time. That's it.
Yeah.
And you know, like it's one thing when somebody posts some inappropriate or insulting or sort of like harassment based comment on something on, you know, social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, whatever, and you can, I mean, like, okay, you're gonna read it, you'll probably delete it anyway, maybe you respond, but when it is in real time, it's very different, because I'm like, and it's taken me a while to kind of adjust. I don't get a ton of people, like, sort of giving me, like, the backlash, and at this point, honestly, I just troll anyone who does try to, like, be rude to me, and like if they come back and they're like, well, blah blah blah, that can't happen, I'm like, sweet, so I don't exist. I'm not sure how I'm making this live stream right now then, but that's fine, you know. But I've gotten, but I think it's, again, it's the safety of the anonymity of the internet,
right,
in general, is far more heightened when you're broadcasting, when you're live streaming, because it is real time. So people feel safe to, like,
believe some of the things that men say to women on that platform.
I mean, that men say to women, that, you know, that, what was it? Like, I've had, and the other thing too is, like, it's I've had someone come into my broadcast, and, you know, they were watching, and they loved what I was doing. And they were just like, oh my god, she's so amazing, oh my god, she's so great. And I was performing, so I couldn't be like, hey, my pronouns, you know, whatever. And one of my, I think it was even, like, my mom was in the broadcast, because I have, on Live Me, there's this wonderful woman that I've met through Live Me who basically adopted me. So, like, now I call her mom, like, I went out to visit for Christmas.
Some people that are kind of protective.
Mom, dad, like, I've found, you know, you get the balance. I found some amazing people who have become, like, my family, my crew, my ride or die, as the kids say. And then, of course, you get other people like this. So, like, Alma, that, you know, like, I just call her mom at this point, even though we're not biologically related. She was like, hey, Lee's pronouns are they, them. And that was it. And the girl was like, oh my god, why are you attacking me? Why are you being like blah, blah, blah? And of course, I didn't know any of this was going on, because I was just performing and I was doing my thing, and I just see, like, these occasional comments popping up, and I'm like, what is happening in the broadcast right now? And this person who decided that by mom telling them, like, hey, Lee's pronouns are they, them, they're not a girl, this person decided to leave, start their own broadcast, and just completely lambast.
Really?
Like, me, mom, everything. She's like, I was in this person's broadcast, like, this girl's broadcast, and, like, all this stuff, and, like, then she blocked her, she blocked me, like, she just went on this completely irrational rampage. And so, the one thing that I don't like for live streaming is that it gives voice and opportunity to people like that.
Yeah.
It's way more accessible for people like that if they want to, like, create their own little, like...
Well, it's like, you know, making records. I mean, it used to be a very high bar to even make recordings.
Yeah.
And now,
that
anybody
too,
can do
that's
it.
another thing. Anybody can have access to it.
Which is great, but it's also horrible.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's true.
You know.
It's like what I have a saying, kind of goes along with that. I firmly believe that everyone can sing. Whether or not everyone wants to hear said singing is an entirely different matter.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're at right now with the advent of, you know, Snapchat, Instagram, videos, live streaming, YouTube, all of this stuff. Everyone can find a way to, quote-unquote, become famous or go viral or be a star.
I posted a link to a girl a couple weeks ago. It was probably 15. And I posted it kind of to illustrate that anybody can have a career on Live Me. But she was sweet, but she was not good. You know? I mean, she was clearly not good.
Yeah.
She had over 100,000 fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's just... That I would say is the only thing that I, like, the two bigger things that, like, make me uncomfortable or kind of make me a little bit wary, or I guess that I dislike, is the fact that people feel comfortable enough because they're just typing on their little thing. They feel comfortable enough that they could just, like, completely try to crush you in real time, and then it gives people who otherwise would not ever have been given a chance,
Right.
you know, which for better or for worse,
Yeah.
to sort of have a platform to utilize their talent or lack thereof.
Well, for instance, I've never been drunk or high. I've never done anything like that. But I have played a lot of computer games.
Okay.
And I would get on and play all night with people in my guild or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was stunned by how many people around the internet drunk or high all the time. And it affects their impulse control.
Oh, totally.
And they say and do things that they would never ordinarily do if they were out and about.
Yeah.
But they get home and they get plastered.
I mean, even sober people on the internet is completely it because it is in and of itself
Yeah.
a high.
Yeah.
Being able to just, in the safety of my room, pull up my phone, I can type some things and be like, "You're a piece of trash. I hope you go die," and then I can hit send, and I'm safe in my room.
Yeah.
And at most, what are they gonna do? Yell at me in all caps?
Right.
You know, like
Start a broadcast.
you know, like, and not that obviously I would ever do that.
No,
but
no,
the thing is that there is it's that like disconnect, because half the time the things that people say on the internet are not things that they would ever say to someone's face. And so what is happening from a negative standpoint with live streaming is that you get the safety of it being an internet comment, but then you're saying it to their face.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so it's like one step away from real world interaction where I'm sitting across from a person and they're like, "Oh, well, I hope you kill yourself." And I'm like, "Huh. Okay. That was unnecessary and uncalled for, and I don't agree with that, and I'm not planning to do that, so, you know."
One thing that strikes me, it occurred to me a while ago, and it's more and more obvious to me all the time, is, I'm progressive.
Okay.
And when I'm talking about justice, I'm talking about equal opportunity for everybody. I'm talking about women and minorities and everybody living in a just society where they have as much right as anybody else.
Right.
But when my conservative friends, or my conservative enemies, talk about justice, they're always talking about revenge. They want somebody to pay, and I don't understand what makes people vindictive. If somebody's not like you, fine, they're not like you.
Yeah.
But why do you have to hate them, It's like...
I think that a few things kind of play into it. I think right now we live, so obviously I live in the United States, so I can really only speak to the culture that we have here. Sure, I've traveled all over the world and I've experienced, but I've never actually lived in, like another place that, except for when I was a kid, but I was a kid, right? So as an adult, I haven't really actually lived outside of the U.S., so I can only speak to what my experience has been. And I think right now we are living in a world where a lot of logs are being turned over at once. And all of the cockroaches are scattering out. And it's not that they haven't been there the whole time.
Right.
But right now, people are feeling a lot braver.
Yeah, because they see how many
cockroaches are out in the open and are in positions of power.